I love the vocal minority. Hello, Nick, Steve, and Brewski.
Goodbye, Mom.
No, what am I saying?
What, this? It's nothing. Really, it's nothing, Ed. It's just, it's just vocal minority with Nick and Steve.
Have a good time. Make sure your seatbelts are fastened.
Okay, you little bastards. The time has come. The moment we've all been waiting for. It's the vocal minority with Nick and Steve Alabrewski. Let's go.
Let's get this bad boy rolling, and yet another episode of the Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve Alabrewski. Slap that bad boy on like you slap some vanilla ice cream on your pie. And welcome to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you.
Welcome to the show. Horn called that once. Slap a little vanilla on the pie. You know what I mean? Ooh. Good story. Find us on the interweb. It's thevocalminority.net and social medias. But of course, if it's social, if it's media, and if it's not truth, then we're on it.
Wow, I think you should explain that, dude. I mean, if it's not true social, we're not on it. But if it's truth, everything we tell is the truth. Like, we never lie, dude.
Yeah, that's fair. No, yeah, we're not on that truth social thing. I don't even know if that thing is still in business, but no, you can find us on Reddit, X, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, apparently, and YouTube. Oh, and TikTok, but of course, well, that's still a thing for different reasons than truth. TikTok's doing too well. Truth is not doing nearly well enough. Know what I mean? Okay.
But you can find us. That's the point. You can also email us, thevocalminority.net. Leave a comment on our comment line, 844-48-VOCAL. Use your telephone as a microphone, and please do be a champion.
Champion!
That's
Indeed.
right.
And speaking of social media videos, I did finally post the full version of Nick's haircut story, the 60-second version going live this week, the shorter one. But Nick, you do have some good hair growth progress. But
oh, yeah, I'm making progress.
Yeah, but you're almost a month, like 3.5 weeks into this. I'm still, it's not quite where it needs to be, but.
Oh yeah, but let's keep in mind, dude, I was bald. I mean, we're coming from like skin up. So I mean, every person I've ran into in person is like, "Damn, your hair is growing so fast." I'm like, "Yeah, thanks." When I just got back from Europe, and I saw my mom yesterday, and she was like, "Did you wear your hat the whole time you were in Europe?" And I was like, actually, no, I didn't. It was funny because I asked Rachel, like, before we would leave the hotel room or whatever, I would say hat or no hat. And she kept saying no hat. So, I mean, hey, let's face it. I dress for her, right? I mean, I want her to think I look good. So
correct.
I kept going out with no hat. And my mom was like, really? I'm like, wow. Thanks a lot, Mom. I appreciate you.
Well, no, maybe she just thought that you would feel self-conscious about it, and then even if Rachel said no hat, you're kind of like, well, I
think you're right. I think you're exactly right. I kind of thought about it and took it that way. So
yeah, moms are fun that way. My mom has destroyed my self-esteem multiple times from random comments she likes to make. So I hear you. And I did see Rachel do a photo dump last night of all your outings. And first of all, yeah, I noticed you weren't wearing a hat quite a bit, and that's good. Be free. You're in Europe, man. What do you care? Like you said, you're happily married. You dress to impress her. That's all.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
But I think I gained 14 pounds looking at your pictures. You guys had so much good freaking food that you took pictures of. I mean, man. So.
When the Reynolds are on vacation, I mean, we're going to eat, So, yeah, we ate a ton. So I'll have to save some of my vacation stories for another show. But, yeah, it was pretty unbelievable as far as the food goes. And, yeah, you could afford to gain a couple from what you tell me. So lick on that screen a little bit. You might get there.
Did you have any like Wiener Schnitzel or some Bockwurst or anything when you were in Germany?
Yes, and yes.
All right, good.
Let me tell you this. I mean, this is quick. I ate fucking schnitzel every day, dude. Wherever I could find it, I was eating veal schnitzel, chicken schnitzel. I mean, I ate all the schnitzels, so.
I was eating schnitzel. I think that's something a lot of conservatives do in men's room truck stops or whatever, too. So,
yeah, well, that's gross because schnitzel is a flat, pounded out piece of meat. So,
pound.
I think they
were
were eating the bratwurst in the truck stop bathrooms. I think that's.
And if they got really lucky, they get a bockwurst.
Yes, indeed. I'm glad you know the difference, Brewski.
Oh yeah.
You guys are cultured, so yes. We're back this week with one new episode. So next week we got some stories to tell from Brewski's adventures in Vegas, Nick's European vacation, and I've got some random personal updates as well. But this week is just too jammed with news, the kind that we feel you need to know. You know?
Oh, news you need to know, you mean?
This is Need to Know News. News you need to know. Start the news chant, please. Come on. News.
Steve Harness.
Yeah. All right. So listen, I know we got plenty of Trump stuff to talk about, and we'll get there. Trump is finally on trial for something that could actually put him behind bars. So we've got thoughts. We'll get there momentarily. But there's been another news story bouncing around the news cycle this past week that I could not wait to get back on the airwaves here to talk about, because A, it's driving me nuts, and B, this is one of these cases where we're not going to sound, or at least I'm not going to sound very liberal right now, or I'm going to call out liberals for being a bunch of fucking hypocrites on this topic.
We say we'll always do that, right? So that's part of our promise.
Right, exactly. You never see conservatives calling each other out, but there's some prominent liberals this week, including the guy I'm voting for this fall, that stop it. Stop it. Okay. Listen, my firstborn Neo is gay, and Neo is absolutely obsessed and fixated on Caitlin Clark. She wants to marry Caitlin Clark, which
basketball player. Yeah.
Yes. So Caitlin Clark is the NCAA college basketball phenom. Brewski, she scored more points than not only any woman in college basketball history, but any man, right?
Don't get me started because the person who held that record before her played when they didn't have a 3-point shot in college basketball.
Sure. Yeah. She scored a ton of points and set a lot of records, is what I'm getting at here, right? So,
yeah.
And I get that, the tournament had a big viewership. She was on SNL. That's great. I'm not taking anything away from Caitlin Clark. She seems to be a phenomenal athlete, and, more power to her. I'm sure she'd beat the ever-loving snot on me on the basketball court. This is actually not about Caitlin as a person, as a woman. But it was announced this past week, she got drafted into the WNBA. And poor girl, she's going to frickin' Indiana. Like, why couldn't LA have the top pick, or Miami or something, right? But
Seattle, come on.
Right, some city.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, but I will say this though, for her though, she's going to be playing in Indianapolis, and Indiana is a big basketball state. And on top of that, her family is from Iowa, which is not too far away, so her family can see the games. And she grew up a Minnesota Lynx fan, which is also another WNBA team.
So I shouldn't feel too bad for her, right?
No, exactly.
Right.
So I think she's okay.
So the story that came out, she got drafted, and it was announced what her salary is going to be, and the liberal world is freaking out because, Caitlin Clark is going to make a lot less in the WNBA than anyone would in the NBA.
Sure.
And everyone from Joe Biden to Hoda Kotb did a whole thing on the Today Show about how outraged they are. The pay gap with women in sports. How can the worst NBA player be making so much more than the best WNBA player? Blah, blah, blah. People, this has got nothing to do with what's between anyone's legs. This is a straight up business thing, okay? The NBA makes money hand over fist. The WNBA does not. So obviously their players are going to make less.
You have the power to change that, right?
That's the other thing. I am sick of people going after the WNBA this week saying, how come you're not paying your players more? No. Every woman out there, every man out there who is outraged by this better be watching every fucking WNBA game. You better be season ticket holders. You better be buying those jerseys. Like, if every woman that watched Desperate Housewives was also watching the WNBA, Caitlin Clark would be making millions because the league would be making millions and millions. So people need to support the WNBA if they want the players to make more money.
Yeah, thanks, dude. I mean, listen, I will start this out by saying, I am a fan of few women's sports. Like, I watch regularly, especially women's gymnastics. I'm a huge fan. I think it's an incredible sport, and I love it. When it comes to the WNBA, I mean, I'm not saying that they can't play basketball. Obviously they can. most people do not find it as entertaining as the NBA. And when Caitlin Clark was doing her thing, my brother got all sucked up in this. And, every night you're watching the game, you're doing that, did you see that? I'm going to send you this clip. I was like, this is odd to me. Like, you've hated women's sports for years. You found them so boring, and all of a sudden you're on this train. And I understand watching her games, but you're telling me that you're sucked up into the WNBA now? You want to start watching that? And he was like, yeah. So 2 or 3 days later, and he was just watching other college games that Caitlin wasn't playing in. And he was like, I owe you an apology. You were right. I guess I'm not all in. I mean, I just want to watch her play. I'm like, yes.
Well, right. You know what it is that the people who really enjoy the women's game are people who are basketball purists.
Sure.
Because the way that the ladies play the game, below the rim and a lot more passing and that sort of thing, that is reminiscent of what the game was. Even when dunking started to come in the game in the mid-'70s with Dr. J and that sort of thing, there was still a lot of that sort of game going on in the league.
Is that really what I think? It's just people that want to support a female phenom, right?
No. I mean,
the people I know that have been tuning into the women's college basketball tournament are not purists. They just want to support a star.
Well,
there's
that part of it, but I'm coming from an aspect of hearing people who are old-time sports writers, guys like Bob Ryan of the Globe and that sort of thing, talking about the game, the women's game, the Celtics of the 50s and the 60s.
Sure. But you're talking about people that were already there and watching this game. All these new people are a Caitlin train.
Those are the 500 people showing up to a WNBA game that you're referring to. Here's the thing. Like, I know that the women's tournament scored bigger ratings than a lot of the men's, and certainly bigger than any women's tournament in past history. That's great for that little slice in time. But you got to extend that over multiple seasons. So if those people are going to now continue to support the WNBA, then let me tell you, it's a free economy. That thing will work itself out just fine. But I seriously doubt that is what's going to happen over the long term. And that is not the fault of the league or of pay gaps in general. Of course, in society in general, men make more than women for the same job, but that is not the same job. You cannot compare an NBA player to just because they're both shooting basketballs. That is not the same freaking thing. Here in Tahoe at the radio stations, we put on concerts a few years ago, and I learned firsthand in an almost painful sort of way that when you put on events, when you have a stadium and security and seating and ticket sales and vendor, you've got to make the almighty dollar to justify any of that shit. If I was putting on a WNBA event and 1,000 people showed up in a 20,000 seat arena, that is an epic failure. Not only am I not making money, no one's making money in that whole thing. And that's the reality. But in the NBA, it's the polar opposite.
Would you like, here's a quick stat for you, okay?
Sure.
Okay. NBA teams ranked by revenue for the 22-23 season. And you tell me if you think any WNBA team comes even close to this, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know the answer, but go ahead.
Okay. Number one, the Golden State Warriors. $765 million in one season.
And one team, just the Warriors.
Just the team, exactly. And that's the closest team to you. The next team, the LA Lakers. They made $516 million in the 2022-2023 season.
Did the WNBA even make any of that in the entire league?
I will look that up.
I highly doubt it. And again, this problem is solvable. If all of you that are outraged by this want to go support the league, then feel free. It will do just fine. But you all aren't, and you're all being hypocrites admonishing everyone.
I guarantee you that if the NBA started tanking and the same amount of people that showed up to the WNBA showed up to the NBA games, those salaries would fall very quickly.
Of course. It's a business.
Would you like to know how much the league as a whole, the WNBA league as a whole, made last year?
Let me guess.
Okay.
So this is gross revenue they brought in?
Yes, exactly. The entire league.
200 million.
Okay, now let me guess. I got to guess. All right.
Yep.
I'm gonna guess 325.
No, Steve's closer. Actually, they projected to make between 180 to 200 million dollars for the season.
And that's gross revenue, by the way. You got to start paying all those bills and see what's left over after that. So they made 20% of what the Golden State Warriors brought in. I mean,
exactly.
That's math, people. You cannot play those players anywhere near. And also, by the way, you're discounting sponsorships. Caitlin Clark is a all-star celebrity right now. She may only be making 80 grand a year playing in this league, but that platform is going to allow her to make millions.
This comes on up in a lot of conversations that people have about giving kids participation trophies. Like, we cannot, I mean, it is what it is. Like, if you want it to be something more, you have to make it more. And until then, this is the level it's at, and this is the level that the people are willing to pay for it.
Listen, it's economics. It is not the same as the pay gap and everything else. And that's what people like Biden and Hoda Kotb going on her little tangent. And Hoda even said, because I saw the film and it just made me want to vomit. She was like, NBA is making so much more than W. And I know it's a business, but come on, people. Like, no, stop right there. If you know it's a business, then it has to be based on revenue coming in. And gross revenue, by the way, is different than net revenue. Like, net is what you're taking out of that gross after you pay all those bills. So
and
the
again,
whole league is only making $200 million. How could they even break even?
Hoda knows how to change it, dude. She knows how to change it. I have not seen her, in the tabloids at WNBA games every week.
Right. But I'm in Tahoe. Freaking Vanderpump just opened up a gigantic new restaurant here in one of our casinos. Yes, it's called Wolf by Vanderpump. And I saw a bunch of celebrity, bitches show up this week for the grand opening. Just these rich, spoiled brats that are on celebrity or, reality TV. So again, those people are making tons of money off their celebrity status. If everyone who watched those shows supported the WNBA, they'd be doing just fine.
100%. Come on.
One thing I forgot about this, and I just had to pull it up.
Sure.
The NBA gives the WNBA every single year $15 million. That's $1 million per team.
Socialism, just giving away money. And I'll tell you too, I mean, we talked about this on the original Vocal Minority call-in radio talk show back in Seattle in the early 2000s, because I don't know if they're still a thing, but the Seattle Storm, are they still a team?
Yeah.
Yes, they are. And it's still very popular.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, but I mean, are they selling out arenas?
No.
Of course not. But we went to see some of those games because they were part of our little radio group. And I got to tell you, it was boring as shit because it's just not the same level of competition. I'm sorry, it's not. When a WNBA player gets a fast break all alone, what do? They do a layup.
Yeah.
An NBA dude, fast break, reverse slam dunk. It's just more exciting. I'm sorry. It is.
Let me tell you this, dude. Rachel, my wife, is the biggest gymnastics fan I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, she talks about gymnastics while we're watching it and says all the correct shit before the commentators say it. I mean, she's up there. She likes women's gymnastics way more than she likes men's gymnastics. Hardly watches men's gymnastics because it's fucking boring, dude, in comparison. It doesn't have anything to do with the sexes in this. It's just some people do it great, some people don't do it as great. That's the real deal.
It's sports. It's entertainment. Sorry, but there's an excitement factor in the NBA that is not there in the WNBA. And that's just a statement of facts. If the league raises their talent level up, if they had 100 Caitlin Clarks, then maybe that would equal out somewhere. But it's not the reality. Okay, so I just hate seeing people beat up on the WNBA and hammer this drum of pay gaps when that's a real issue in every other aspect of society, but not in professional sports, and especially not the NBA versus the WNBA. There are some women's sports. Tennis, I've always said. I think a lot of female tennis players would kick the crap out of most male players. I mean, we had the famous battle of the sexes, years ago, and Billie Jean King won. I mean,
and Bobby Riggs, yeah.
Right. So, listen, this is not a thing about, it's not a commentary on Caitlin Clark or female athletes. They're doing their thing. It's a commentary on society not supporting them and simultaneously admonishing everyone for not paying them the same as men. So,
and you should also know that when you bring that up, when you bring that up and this conversation, you diminish the real issue of, the disparity in pay. So.
Yes, you're giving the conservatives something to, say that pay gap is just stupid. Look at the WNBA. Like, no, stop trying to hold that up as an example.
Well, Steve, just to your point, as far as people supporting the WNBA, the average attendance for a WNBA game is 6,615 fans per game.
And that's average, so that's putting some bigger cities in that mix. But but 6,000, that's
exactly.
So just take it down a notch, people. And again, you can solve this problem. Go support it. If you love it, go support it. It'll all equal out.
Thanks, Steve.
I try.
It's well said, and it's enough said, don't you think?
But Steve Harness with an economics lesson and a sports lesson for the listeners at the same time. Bravo, Steve.
Thank you, everybody.
Bravo. Little ball sucking going on here. Hold on a second here.
Enough said. This is the only news you need to know. After all, this is Need to Know News. News you need to know. Enough said.
Yeah, that's right. Need to know news you need to know. That's what we're in the middle of right now. I met a lady yesterday. This lady was in her mid-70s. This is a friend of my mother's who lives in this retirement community, this neighborhood my mom lives in. And she offered me some free car washes at the local car wash. So I asked her that, Brewski. I appreciate you saying that because I was like, are you going to wash my car? She was like, you want some free car washes? I was like, are you going to do it? Like bikini style?
Yeah, right.
She was like, no. But the local car wash, I got a bunch of free tickets. So my point is I went over to her house and I picked those tickets up. And within 30 seconds, she was talking to me about Donald Trump and this country and whose fault it is. Okay.
Oh, boy.
And I was like, who? And she was like, it's the evangelicals. I mean, she hated Trump and she made, that very clear very quickly. She was like, it's all these these Christians, that are following this man. And I was like, yeah, I think, you're right on a lot of counts. So I was like, what do you mean by that? She starts to explain, like, obviously these aren't Christians. These aren't real Christians, if you're going by what the Bible says you should act like and blah, blah, blah.
Well, they're being hypocrites. That makes them kind of real Christians. So.
I suppose, dude. Not real Christians, though. Let me tell you this, Steve, and I think you might even agree with this. Okay. I heard a pastor on the internet about a week ago, and I started seeing him everywhere. And he lays out this, 1 minute, a little more message. And I was like, this is something all the Christians that are voting for Trump cannot hear. They cannot take this, and it is the truth. I wonder if you'll agree, okay?
Okay.
The Bible doesn't mention abortion or gay marriage, but it goes on and on about forgiving debt, liberating the poor, and healing the sick. Christian nationalists like to say this is a Christian nation. Not only is that historically inaccurate, not only is that theologically blasphemous, but it's also just not true. Look around us. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would forgive student debt. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would guarantee health care to every single person. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would love all of our LGBTQ neighbors. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would make sure every child in this state and in this country was housed, fed, clothed, educated, and insured. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would never make it a Christian nation because we know the table of fellowship is open to everybody, including our Buddhist, Hindu, Jewish, Muslim, Sikh, and atheist neighbors. Jesus could have started a Christian theocracy, but love would never do that. The closest thing we have to the kingdom of heaven is a multiracial, multicultural democracy where power is truly shared among all people. Something that's yet to exist in human history.
That's right.
And brother. Preach on, brother. Preach on, brother.
I mean, when you think about the absolute truth and not what you want to bend it to be, to fit your lifestyle, fit your views, if you think about the absolute truth of what Jesus is supposed to stand for, I mean, that's about as close as I've ever heard. Like just spitting facts, and if you don't believe with even one of those things, you don't believe, dude. You don't believe in what you think you believe in.
Yeah, listen, no, I completely agree with everything he's saying, but that actually proves the point I said on the front side of that there's so much hypocrisy in religion, where that book says all of that stuff. But even before the Trump era, I mean, going way back, most Christians, most Catholics don't actually do those things, which is always hypocrisy. But now, in the Trump era, I mean, there's just a giant, spotlight on that issue. And, like we said, anyone buying this Trump Bible either has never read the Bible or doesn't believe what's in it, because you can't do both. You can't support Trump and claim to actually believe in the Bible.
I saw another pastor, and this was like a Southern Baptist pastor talking about the Trump Bible, and it was incredible because he seemed like a very ultra-conservative guy. He's talking to his parishioners, and he says to them, like, if anyone in this parish bought a Trump Bible, like, you don't know why you're here. Right. Like anything that has the, everyone's been coming up to me saying like, oh, this has, the Pledge of Allegiance. It has the Constitution in there. Like, to put that next to this is everything the Bible is against.
And like the founding fathers, they did not want us to be a religious-based country. They want us to have the freedom of religion, but not to intermesh it with the government.
No, politics and religion does not mix. It doesn't mix. It shouldn't mix.
You know what a lot of them don't understand is that freedom of religion also means freedom from religion and religious persecution.
Right.
With making the rest of us go along with a set belief. Yeah. When it's, Frank Zappa said that when you have one party who's ruling, going by the religious beliefs of one particular religion, that's where we really get into a theocracy, and that's where we're heading to. And he was saying that when Reagan was president in 82, 83.
Yeah, he was brilliant, really. I mean, if you listen to Zappa, like he had a lot of right ideas about things.
Right, like not eating yellow snow. That's also on his list of
That is on his list. You guys know who the good liars are? We've talked about them on this podcast before. They go to Trump rallies and interview these idiots.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So they went to this rally and were talking about, I can't remember who came out and said it, but he was saying like, so-and-so just came out and said that this country we should all be loving one God. In God we trust, and that means one God. That's what he wanted it to say. He was like, do you agree with that? And they're all like, yeah, I think that's right. And he was like, so what do we do with Trump's children, that are Jewish, and like, what should we do with them? The way they backpedaled so quickly, it was hysterical because yes, you fucking idiots. I mean, that means religious freedom. Everyone can do what they want, right? We all got to be good with it.
Yeah. That's always been humorous to me when people talk about putting God into public schools. We need more God. I'm like, all right, bring Buddha in there. I'm fine. No, not Buddha. No. Like my God. Oh, your God. So none of the other gods, huh? None of the other fairy tale books out there. Just your fairy tale bullshit, huh?
It's like Christian nation, Steve. Okay.
Right, So yeah, freedom of religion does mean freedom from it. And it also means the freedom of all of the frickin' religions.
Well, I like to point this out to conservatives all the time, that first of all, the Pledge of Allegiance was not said in classrooms every day until the 50s. Right. And that's also when they added under God into there too. And,
so many people don't know that wasn't always in there. That was a Red Scare thing.
Exactly. Well, the entire thing, that's why money up until that time said "E pluribus unum" on it, which means from many one. That was our national motto.
It's like Latin. Gosh.
Exactly. But then they put "In God We Trust" on money as well. And the reason why was because they wanted to differentiate us from what they called godless commies. So that's exactly what that's all about. It's always been about that. It's not because they think that we need to be back to religion or anything like that.
No, it's brainwashing propaganda.
100%. That was the first pastor. I've heard some pastors kind of talk about like everyone has a seat at our table, but I've never heard a pastor specifically name atheist. And I thought everyone forgot, dude. Everyone forgot to put a chair at the table for those people.
You can easily argue that atheism is a religion. I mean, it's a belief. I mean, it's a belief in not believing in some ways. But you know what I mean? Like, there's so many of us. I don't know what the current stats are, but the number of atheists keep growing and growing every census, every 10 years.
Yeah.
We're about to outnumber all y'all, at least the individual, like Christians or Catholics or Muslim. Like, I think there's actually more atheists nowadays. So I don't know why we get shit on all the time.
I don't know if that's factual worldwide, but maybe in America, yes.
America,
yes.
Yeah,
for sure.
worldwide, Muslims outnumber everybody.
Yes. No, absolutely. And which is funny, though, because, again, like religion in schools, okay, then put Allah in there because there's more Muslims than there are anything.
Yeah.
So, listen, I just pulled it up real quick here. So the newest data, this came out just a couple of months ago, 28% of Americans classify themselves as no religion. 17% identify as atheist, 20% as agnostic. So
give us a difference, Stephen.
Atheists and agnostics. Agnostics believe in nothing, just you die, you're dead. Atheists believe that there's probably a higher power, but they're not part of an organized religion. So I would tend to say I'm more atheist than agnostic.
How are agnostic and none both on this survey?
I think, well, let's see here. Most of the nuns said that they were raised to be religious, and the majority were raised in Christian households, but now they just have, grown out of it or whatever. So they don't want to say they're an atheist per se or an agnostic, but it's like, I'm none. I'm just not religious. So that means 63% of this country identifies as either nothing or atheist or agnostic. Like, they're not Christians, Catholics, Muslims, Buddhists, Jews. I mean, the majority of us are non-religious. Yeah, we got to put up with this garbage all the time about God everywhere.
You sound like, truthfully, you sound like, you guys are always trying to push this pushing this LGBTQ query stuff on us.
Well, at least being gay is real, okay? I don't know that God is. I mean, I do believe in a higher power. I just don't believe in organized religion. I don't think he writes books. I don't think he discriminates based on being part of his club. I mean, and it's on our money. It's in our Pledge of Allegiance. Like, God is pushed on us all the time, even though the founding fathers don't want it, even though this pastor you just played the clip from is like, it shouldn't be a religious country. We're not supposed to be. It's self-defeating. The Bible even says so, but here we are.
Yeah, what a brilliant thing, dude, to put in God we trust on money. It's like everyone has to use it. You can't get away with not using it. So,
isn't there something on that top 10 list about greed being a bad thing?
Yes. Well, So, there you go. That's religion. That's politics. And this is the vocal minority.
Need to know news.
I said, oh, Lord Jesus, it's a fire.
News you need to know.
I got bronchitis. Ain't nobody got time for that.
It's time for another brewski. This one is a crazy brewski.
Oh, gosh.
Exhausted right out of the gate, brewski.
No, where to start? I mean, Steve's right. I mean, there's is way too much
There's a lot of
going on.
Totally.
It's draining. I get it.
And so,
are we done with the trial? Do we have any more stories on that topic, or just throw out some comments?
I've got some stuff about it as one of my news stories. So.
All right.
Well, I don't have a news story about it, but I had some thoughts on the trial, especially given what we heard yesterday about the $420,000 that Michael Cohen was paid. $420,000.
Yeah, it started off as what was the payment to Stormy Tits Daniels?
$130,000. $130. Yep.
Which I thought was very low, by the way.
Yeah.
I think she sold herself very short in all of that. But over a payment of $130 just to get the job done, it costs a little bit over $4 now is what we're at, right?
No, $420,000 was what it came down to. Yeah.
Well, lawyers, they got to make their fee on there too.
Sure.
I get it.
Well, but the other thing, though, too, on that is that the Trump people wanted to make the money getting paid to Cohen look like income, so that they
look
could
like something it wasn't, which seems illegal.
and on top of that, paying out of the corporate funds of the Trump organization and doctoring the books to say, well, what the money was. So
now, apparently a lot of us don't understand what a conspiracy is, because I'm sick of Trump coming out and saying like, "Hey, I didn't make that ledger note, or I didn't do like." It's a conspiracy. So you did some things, the people you were working with did some things, and it all added up to one big crime that you were all obviously complicit with each other. And I love that he never acknowledges, like, my lawyer went to prison already for this crime, but I'm guilt-free of it. I got nothing to do with it. Just my lawyer who was working for me went to jail.
He's been caught saying now several times that, yes, my lawyer went to prison, but the things he went to prison for had nothing to do with me. It was in regards to a cab company that he was running, like, no, dude, you fucking idiot. We're not that dumb, or are we?
It's funny that we say this, because here's my story for you, okay? And it comes from CNN Politics, and it says why Trump should be concerned about newly unsealed FBI notes. And this is to do with the Jack Smith case in Florida.
Okay.
Oh, I love you, Jack.
I do love you, Jack.
Donald Trump's valet, Waltine Nauta, was told that if he was charged with lying to the FBI, the former president would pardon him when he won a second term in 2024, according to notes from an interview with the witness in the federal classified documents investigation.
I mean, we've heard multiple accounts of that, of Trump offering pardons. I mean, he's done it publicly in speeches to the January 6 people and others. I mean,
well,
how at this point do you trust him? Like, after even just seeing what he did to Giuliani, we don't even talk about him anymore just because he's like dying in the background, in bankruptcy, because he said he'd take care of all my legal fees, dude, if I just did this dirty shit for him.
Well,
gambling your own freedom.
Well, so the thing with Walt Nauta is that Trump told him that the whole thing was much ado about nothing. Nauta was told by FPOTOS, so former president of the United States, that the investigation was going nowhere. It was politically motivated and much ado about nothing.
It seems to be much ado about something, not nothing.
Exactly.
Good luck to all you.
What's the deal with that?
What's the deal? Yeah, that's funny, dude. I mean, it blows my mind that people just don't see how dirty he is and all of his dealings, going back to way before he was even in the public eye of politics.
Some Republican group, anti-Trump group, I don't think it was the Lincoln Project, but it was somebody like them. They just put out a new ad today that shows a man using an undercover camera, and I believe it's legit because they fuzz out people's faces and stuff, but he goes to apply for a job at various shopping malls and tells them, like, hey, is there a criminal background check for this job? And they're like, oh, yeah. He's like, I've got 88 federal indictments pending against me. Is that going to be a problem? Oh, and I was found sexually or criminally liable for sexual assault. Like, and all of these, hiring managers are just like, no, you're not going to pass the background check. Like, you're not going to get hired here.
Sorry.
Right. Yeah, I've got 88 indictments pending. Is that a problem for me to be a security guard here at the mall?
Right. Yeah. Can I work at Orange Julius? Is that an issue?
Right. But here we are. Speaking of Orange Julius, the biggest one on the planet, trying to be president and all that.
They don't care what he does. They want him in power so that he'll give them what they want.
Absolutely. They're flaming hypocrites. And speaking of flaming, what is up with the guy that lit himself on fire? When are we going to find out if this guy was a Trumper? Was this a random thing? Like, I haven't heard any follow-up to this self-immolation.
All accounts I've heard since is that it was a Trumper. Is that not the truth?
See, I'm not seeing a lot of news media coverage on this, so I don't know. I mean, it has to be. Well, what other kind of moron would show up and light himself on fire? Obviously not a liberal. The only other plausible explanation was just some crazy person in New York City. But
dude, when I was recently in Berlin, I went through this museum that was all about like how Hitler got his legs. You know what I mean? How he took over. And I can't tell you. We over the last 5-6 years, we've heard a lot like, oh, this is Nazi Germany. And sometimes people will be like, hey, hold on a little bit. Like comparing those two is a little touchy. Be careful with that. But as I read through how Hitler got his legs, I was petrified. Yes. By so many of the things that are happening. And one being the biggest with, well, first of all, I never knew Hitler went to prison. Okay, Hitler tried to do this. Then he went to prison.
Yes.
And then he sat there for 3 years or 4 years. Then he got out. And then he started this all rigmarole. And to call it that is a bit disrespectful. I don't mean it that way. But he then started attacking the media and making people not believe what they were hearing. And then it got to a certain point where they garnered such control of the media that they just took it away from people. And he started sending out radios that only got one channel, dude. So if you want news, here's a free radio or a $1 radio, but you can only tune into Fox News, you know?
Yes. No, Dictator 101 is making the media the enemy of the people, as Trump has branded all of us. And, controlling the media. I mean, it's what Roger Ailes has done. I mean, having your own media outlets. It's not supposed to be that way, but
programming your message into the people's heads.
Yes.
That's what Roger Ailes called it in his detailed notes, handwritten notes, when he was working in the Nixon White House and the blueprint for Fox News.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought you were going to say the museum just had a live feed of like CNN or something showing everything going on in our country right now.
It's funny to see how people in Berlin, mind you, will talk to you about what's going on in our country right now. And a lot of it at this point is just like, you guys are fucking idiots. You got, I mean, just as a whole, like your country, you guys are fucking idiots. I heard it so many times.
Because we don't see it, right?
Yeah. Like, what are you doing? Why would anyone vote for this guy? Like, why wouldn't you turn this train around immediately, if not sooner?
We have an opportunity to do that in November. That's what I would suggest to everybody is do it and exercise your vote and make sure that Donald Trump does not get reelected.
And by the way, I won't do it as a whole story, but I'll just throw this out quick as I pulled it today. New voting data out. The share of voters who say they have a high interest in this upcoming election has hit a 20-year low.
Wow.
We have never had less interest in an election than we do right now since the 90s. I would imagine very similar to Germany in the old days. We're just like, I don't care. They're both bad. I don't like either of them. Like, it is disgusting to me that we would be at an all-time low in interest in this election. And this shows how gaslighting and disinformation works. Because there's a lot of people out there that disinformation and gaslighting doesn't work on per se, meaning they don't believe the lie or the disinformation, but they become fatigued and overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Just like I hear so much about, I'm just walking away, I'm just overwhelmed. And it's why the Trump camp repeatedly just puts out this garbage lies, because they know if you say it enough people will start to believe it, or at least will become just, disinterested in all the garbage.
Yes. Suck it up. Get to it. Make it happen, Captain. Vote blue, no matter who.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you this.
We interrupt our program to bring you a special.
Here is a news bulletin.
We interrupt this program to bring you
the humanity and all the things. A date which will live in infamy. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Need to know news. News you need to know.
Even if I don't take it out and play with it, I still like seeing it. So, speaking of polling data, all right, I'm going to switch gears off of politics, if that's all right with everybody.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, go for it.
So, Brewski was, I think it was off air before recording. You had some baby incident in Vegas. Is that what you were talking about?
Oh yeah, on my flight back from Vegas, my red eye flight from Vegas to Boston.
The old screaming baby kind of thing.
Yeah.
Having been the parent in that situation, that was so terrible and stressful. When we flew with Neo back to Michigan when she was like 3 or something, I mean, poor kid. I don't know if it was an earache or what, but it was just screaming the whole flight. And I've always been the kind of parent that if you're in a restaurant or a movie theater and the kids start screaming, you take them outside and you calm them down. You get them away from everyone else. But on a plane,
nowhere to go. Exactly.
Nowhere to go. Yeah.
And the funny experience for me was on that plane, all of the non-parents were shooting lasers out of their eyes at us of just hatred and disdain. And all of the parents were coming up to us like, can I offer you guys like a toy to play with? Hang in there. You're doing your best. Like, it was a terrible situation.
Well, but the thing about my situation was the kid was in a carriage in a stroller. As soon as we got on the plane and the parents sat down, That's when the kids started screaming. The door wasn't closed yet. We hadn't taken off.
Listen, if it's in a stroller, I would have checked it in the overhead or put it down. If it's in a container, I mean, come
like
on.
a dog, put it under the seat, dude.
Yes. Put a little pill in its cheese and let them fall asleep. So a couple episodes back, I was talking about the fact that I was backstage in an event I was working at, and one of the other entertainers was a woman, and she sat down next to me on the couch and started breastfeeding in front of me.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and I was saying that it made me very uncomfortable. Like, why would you whip out your boobie right next to me? You came and sat next to me. You couldn't find a corner. You couldn't go in another room. And Nick, to a large extent, and maybe Brewski to a lesser extent, was kind of admonishing me. Was that correct?
I was saying, I was
telling you, it's bullcrap, dude.
Yeah,
That she did that? It is bullcrap.
No,
it's
not.
She can do. It's natural. She should do it wherever.
Feeding her baby, dude.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Do you guys know? I hope I pronounce his name right. Arj Barker, comedian. Ever heard of him? I don't know him.
No.
No.
So, comedian Arj Barker asked a breastfeeding mother to leave his show after the baby talked during his set.
Oh boy!
All right, so comedian Arj Barker.
What, is the baby's nursing that's talking? Don't you supposed to quit that at some point?
Probably. The kid was 14. I think talking was in quotes, like it was, gurgling and gobbling and
gooing. Okay.
Yeah. So comedian Arj Barker asked a breastfeeding mother and her baby to. It'd be funny if you just asked the mom to leave.
Hey, baby, get out.
Asked the mother and her baby to leave his comedy show at a theater in Melbourne, Australia this past weekend, a decision that has sparked controversy online. Now, in a statement on his Instagram page, Barker said, he's an American comedian, by the way, he said a baby sitting a few rows away from the stage was, quote, talking at the start of his show. Heckling him, I guess, I don't know. Prompting him to at first make a few jokes and try to, to de-escalate the situation. He says then, quote, I calmly informed the woman holding the baby that the baby couldn't stay. I felt bad doing so, and I stated it at the time, as well as several times throughout the remainder of the show. As she was leaving, I offered to refund her ticket as a gesture of goodwill. He said it was a very tough call, but there were 700 other people there. And he's essentially saying, if anyone is being disruptive in a comedy show, you give them a chance or two, and then you got to ask them to leave.
Sure.
Yeah. But he's getting an extra heat because a woman... Yeah. Okay, first of all, who brings a baby to a comedy show? Secondly, who starts breastfeeding a baby in the middle of a comedy show? Step out into the freaking lobby or something. There's a live show happening. I wouldn't do anything that would be distracting in that setting, let alone feeding another human with my exposed titty.
Dude, we shouldn't even be having the breastfeeding conversation. Why is there a baby at the comedy show?
Right.
Like Brewski says, you know what? I don't care if you have kids. If they're at a place where adults go to have fun and they shouldn't be there, I mean, I'm pissed off about it. Like, shut that baby up, dude. I'll love your baby at Disneyland. I'll love your baby in the public pool, getting swimming lessons, not at a freaking comedy show. Are you kidding me?
Absolutely. I almost feel bad for this guy that the woman had the excuse of breastfeeding, because that puts the extra onus on this poor comedian.
Sure, yeah.
Of he's in this anti-breastfeeding category that I've found myself in somehow now.
Yeah.
But it's just the fact that there was a baby who was being distracting, whether it's crying or gooing or whatever. It's a comedy show. This is live. I'm not on screen or TV or something. Like, shut the hell up out there.
Yeah, there's no take two. I mean, the best comics out there will tell you how distracting certain things in the audience can be. I'm trying to not only tell jokes and remember my whole routine, but I have to get a rhythm going with the crowd. And this is very distracting for me to be able to do that.
Well, you do know that most comedians now, and a lot of the comedy shows I've gone to, they actually confiscate your phone when you walk before you go into the arena.
It's a phone check. It's like a code check for your phone, dude. And your phone's protected. They don't want to be distracted during the show and watch you scrolling or videoing, whatever you're doing.
I don't think I would go to a comedy show if I knew ahead of time they were going to take my phone.
Why? Because you're worried about an emergency?
Yes. I mean, I'm not going to be texting during, and I'm not going to film if they say don't film. I go to all sorts of theater where they tell you can't film or take pictures. I don't. But I'm a responsible adult. If there's an emergency, I should have my freaking phone on me.
But you got a bad apple that ruined the bunch for you, Stephen.
It's similar to the breastfeeding. Like, should women check their breasts? I mean, if they just start whipping them out in the middle of the show, that's going to be distracting.
but again,
dude, we want that.
I come back to Nick's question. Why is the baby there?
Absolutely. And by the way, my point I think is valid as far as emergencies, having my cell phone on me.
Oh, yeah,
when I say emergencies, I mean, my kids need to contact me, or, we were on a radio station. If a fire breaks out in this town, like, I got to know. I got to, be active on that stuff. But also, in this modern day and age, especially in America, if I'm in a theater full of people and someone comes in there and starts shooting, so you're telling me no one in this theater has a cell phone? None of us can call 911? None of us can call our family and say, I love you, I miss you, I'm about to die?
That's scary. That's a scary thought.
Right. It's a realistic, practical thought, though.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Dave Chappelle. Let me have my freaking phone. Someone takes it out, kick their ass out right away,
Well, did we answer your question, Steve? You shouldn't have a baby in that comedy show, right?
Yeah. I mean, my larger point about the breastfeeding thing is, honestly, it's really not even pertinent to the discussion. You should not have a baby distracting people, whether it's your boobie or not. So I'm with this comedian, and anyone beating him up for throwing someone out. You would throw a heckler out, so why not throw a breastfeeding baby who's making noise and being distracting out? Amen.
Yeah.
Go for it, brother.
Anything else you want to get out there?
I'm circumcised. I got my son circumcised. I'm not religious.
Do you have news you need to know? Like need to know news? How about news you need to know? Do you feel like you need to know that? What if we could guarantee only news you need to know? The need to know news. I think we might be on to something you need to know. Perhaps it's news. Let's see if we need to know it.
Now we're out of time.
I feel like you might need to know this, dude. Just as we talk briefly about this Trump trial that's going on right now, a big thing that's happening is the gag order. It's been in place for quite some time in different trials. Trump continues to break the gag order for all intent and purpose, and I haven't seen him really punished in any major way.
And by the way, I will tell you, every relationship I've ever been in, I have a gag order as well. Like, I order her to gag. You know what I mean?
But that includes punishment. I mean, there was something about that includes punishment, right?
Oh, yeah. A little spanking,
Yeah, or worse, maybe some choking or.
No, in all seriousness, I don't understand why he hasn't been fined or thrown in jail yet. I mean, there's some hearing coming up for some of these multiple gag order violations. What the hell, man?
I don't know, but it's insane to me, but it seems to be working for him on some level. This is a thing that we need to think about when you are going into a jury trial, that the importance of a jury, the way that they see you, the way that they think of you while you're sitting in that courtroom is beyond important. From what you wear to, do you tap your feet? Do you do anything that can mess with their heads? I mean, they are, the most important.
The most important entity in a criminal trial, the most important, for which we stand on an all-rise signal from the bailiff, is not the judge. And certainly not the criminal defendant. It is the jury in a jury trial. There's a reason we, including me, members of the bar, stand for the jury, because they are the most important entity in that room in our criminal justice system. That's it.
That's it. I mean, that's the dealio. But yet, Trump continues to talk about the jury, defame jurors. We've lost 2 jurors already in this case, that said it like, I can no longer, I'm going to be biased the way that he's talking about me and threatening my children, treating me, saying things about me. Like,
it's not even so much the bias per se. It's the pressure they're feeling from their family or their coworker. I mean, it's because Trump is turning up the heat on them, and that should be jury intimidation. I mean,
in any other world, if I were doing this in a jury trial, I'd be in trouble immediately, if not sooner. So, Trump continues to play this little game with the jury. When he got out of the courtroom most recently, he sent out a message to all of his followers on Truth Social. This is insane to me. I don't know if he's teasing if this is the martyr effect or what it is.
Tonight, Trump sent around a fundraising email called My Farewell Message, making it sound like he's definitely going to jail. We just queued up some new sound from Donald Trump today. This is from an interview on a conservative network called Real America's Voice. Here it is, Donald Trump talking about the jury in his trial.
That jury was picked so fast, 95% Democrats. The area is mostly all Democrat. You think of it as just a purely Democrat area. It's a very unfair situation, that I can tell you.
I was talking to my wife, who is a lawyer, and I was like, what does he mean it was picked so fast? And she was like, that means nothing. Like, they didn't speed the process up to pick this jury. His attorney, the prosecution, I mean, they do it together. This is a process in which, it takes what it takes.
Yeah, and it really actually wasn't all that quick. But I just love his thing of like, it happened so quick, it's all Democrats. We had no say in this. I had no, right. You got lawyers that are screening these people too. You can reject people too. So you were part of this jury pool selection at the quote rapid pace.
This is incredible. All right, I will tell you guys that the cameras haven't been in the courtroom, which right. I mean, it sucks. We all got to watch OJ get off, and now with another trial that we all want to see, cameras not allowed, audio not allowed. We have some friends in high places, boys. I mean, it's the truth. Wow. And I guess my wife being in the legal field doesn't hurt us. But
we're also part of the liberal media cabal, too. So
that's true. Yeah. I was able to get a little bit of audio from someone that's inside the courtroom. He brought an extra phone. They didn't take his phone, and he did a little memo recording. Nice. And this is a Vocal Minority exclusive.
Oh,
all right.
So, big stuff.
Yeah, audio in the courtroom, current trial, Trump. Here we go.
Mom, I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's like talking. Oh.
That was a wet one.
Some of the audio that has been coming out about these reports from Don Lemon was the funniest, dude. I mean, it was almost like that. There's a famous Anderson Cooper clip where he couldn't stop giggling all throughout his newscast. Right. Don Lemon was just giddy and googling. Like, this man is shitting his pants so bad in that courtroom via farts and sleeping that I mean, people say that it is so smelly. I mean, who's my guy on the Midas Touch, Ben Marcellus?
Ben Marcellus, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he came and said like, okay, usually I will maybe not play something if I only have one person that I know and trust say this is verified. But if I get two people to do it, like, I'm going to play it. I'm going to let people know about it. Well, he finally got his two, and the stories were recounted the exact same way. He's sleeping and farting in court.
Right. Trump's got his number 2 on full display going on there.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what his lawyers think, the jury experts, but yeah, sleeping in front of them, farting in front of them, and shitting your pants in front of them. I mean, literally have major news outlets feel that they have to report on the fact that the courtroom stinks.
Yes.
What does that tell you?
We've been telling him he's full of shit for so long that he's just trying to release it a little at a time, I suppose. But
we've been covering him shitting himself for a long time on the show, and it's gaining more and more credibility, especially with this news story of him sitting in a confined courtroom and he can't help himself.
So not only is he not standing for the jury, completely just disrespecting him in that way, his lawyers, everyone gets up and he remains seating, arms crossed, I'm sure, like he always does. But he's sleeping and shitting himself with audible farts in that courtroom. If I was a juror, dude, I mean, even if I was a conservative, I think I would have to say, like, this is not okay, bro.
Are we sure that maybe Donnie isn't worried that if he stands up, that some poop might roll down his leg and onto the floor?
It's a good point. Didn't even think about it, dude. Yeah.
I'm waiting for the judge to say something along the lines of like, jury, you're not allowed to hold the defendant's, rectal
flatulence.
Flatulence against him in a court of law. That's not admissible evidence, just so you know. But.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's going to keep going. Today, I saw reports start coming out that people are saying that they are giving him benzos because they don't want him, he can't shut up. They don't want him standing up and freaking out, so they're giving him benzos that are putting him to sleep, and we all fart in our sleep, so it's not that big of a deal.
That's an excuse. That's all that is.
Of course. He doesn't care.
No, and the thing about it is they all say, well, you can't put him in jail. It's a logistical nightmare for the Secret Service. You know what? Just put him in his own cell.
Yeah,
right?
Hannibal Lecter style.
Yeah, it should be the easiest guard duty in history of presidents. He's going to be locked in a room. He's not out traveling around.
Come on, dude. Now, you didn't read the latest reports come in from MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She said, of course, this is the ultimate plan, is for him to be put in prison or jail, even if it's for 40 days. The Dems have killed Epstein in the past, and they know how to kill Trump, and that's exactly why they want him in jail.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah, please.
That's what she's saying. So, yeah, who knows? Thanks for listening to our podcast, The Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve Holobrewski.
Find us online, thevocalminority.net. Call 844-48-VOCAL with your comments, complaints, and anything else.
Get over here, Nick.
Oh, get over here, Brewski, please.
Auf Wiedersehen.
And we say bye-bye.
Test 1 2, test 1 2.
Check. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve.
Nick Reynolds, Steve Harness, and Cousin Brewski. The Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve.
Take one.